You have all the qualifications necessary to destroy the person that you are. You know your weaknesses. You know what makes you angry. You know what excites you. You know what you are drawn to. Somebody who knows these things about you, if turned upon themselves, can destroy their psyche, their emotional state, their mental stability, and any defense that can be mounted against the problems that you have. Now, something that would cause oneself to turn against their own psyche, their own emotional state, their own mental body, is trying to internally justify feeling absolutely terrible without truly understanding the situation in its entirety. So when we are suffering through physical drug withdrawal, serotonin goes down as far as our ability to produce it. Anxiety goes up. Depression, edginess, OCD for some people. A number of different things goes up. I've been through drug withdrawal. I don't go through it anymore, obviously. And when you feel this bad, you are at your weakest before your own personal beast. This beast within you. Your opposite. But not the opposite that is the higher self, but the opposite that is the beast. That opposite of you that wants to tear you down to make you it. The id. That will tear at you as you try to maintain your mental stability between the id and the superego. I know, I still use Freudian jargon, even though Freud has been disproven in a number of ways. But regardless, it's apt in this comparison. So, you have this inner thing that wants to degrade itself, that wants to tear itself apart, wants to question everything that gives us sureness in our life. And when you don't have the ability to rev yourself up, to motivate yourself, to make yourself feel good, all the things that made you feel good are either out of reach or something that'll just make you feel more bad later. When you have no way to sustain any mood once it gets heightened, if it gets heightened at all, then you're going to start tearing yourself apart. There's a few physical things that we can do to deal with drug withdrawal. It's very important to get lots of sleep. Take vitamins. And I'm telling you vague things because I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to tell you exactly what you should do. But some things that I found that work: take a lot of vitamins, eat a lot of fiber, sleep as much as possible, drink a lot of water. And for God's sake, do not make any big decisions while you're in withdrawal, besides the decision to keep on going through withdrawal and getting over it rather than getting high again, no matter what drug we're talking about. There are many that are worse than others. I've been in withdrawal from many different drugs in the past, not anymore, obviously, but it can be very painful. And the worst decision you can make is to decide to either get more of the drug or to make any big life decisions like either suicide or talking to somebody in a very aggressive way or dealing with some big life choice that you've been putting off. You shouldn't do any of these things when you're in withdrawal. You need to recede from the world. If you need to go to meetings with AA and A. If you need to reach out to friends and family, do that. If you really feel the need to reach out, reaching out is important. I never felt the need to reach out, but I know that I'm one of the few that I rather just heal alone. But most people, it's very important to reach out. Reach out to people that you can rely on. Even if they're not a close friend. Let's say your close friends were the ones that influenced you into where you are. Find some other people that can aid you in the situation that you're in. Once again, NA, AA, perfectly fine organizations. I never had a lot of luck with them, but the most of the people that I've known that were addicts and alcoholics definitely have. And they're usually people in those organizations are very much, they know what you're going through, and they're very much concerned with helping you get over it. Sometimes people in our lives can pressure us into using again or putting us into a mental state to where the only way we know how to get out of it, because we become so depressed or anxious, the only way we know how to get out of it is go get more drugs or drink more. So definitely reach out. A lot of these things are not going to be big surprises. And another physical thing that you should do is, for God's sake, bathe very well and regularly, because it can elevate your mood. Now, when it comes to psychological things, we've talked a little bit about that just now. You should track exactly what's going through your brain. You should write as much as possible, but try to be as neutral as possible. Try to observe the thoughts that's in your head without making judgments upon them. It's really hard to take a third-person point of view in our minds when we're going through something like this. But if it's a long process, then it's one we can track and learn from ourselves on, and we can learn how to get past it. You need to be able to have something to do while you're going through this. And getting over it, engaging actively with how your thought processes are evolving as this goes on, engaging yourself in that way might lead you to actually understand a little bit about yourself even while you're going through this. So write as much as you can down, but try to remain impartial. Say, okay, I'm going to make judgments upon this later, but I'm just going to observe what's going through my mind right now. This might help you in the future as well, as far as keeping away from drugs or alcohol. Another thing that you can do psychologically is, I always recommend meditation, but it's really hard for somebody going through withdrawal to meditate. But meditation is a wonderful thing. Try to focus on breath meditation, and and if you're twitching or anything like that, you can still have your eyes open. If you can't stand to close your eyes because of the shapes or whatever, then that I went through, then sometimes it's just good to sit and do breath meditation. In for 4 long seconds. Hold for 4 seconds. Out for 4 seconds. Something like that. You'll get the seconds down as that are good for you. But whatever your long breath is, do a very long, even breath in, hold for the same amount, then blow for the same amount. Just keep on doing that. Focus on your breath. Don't focus on what's going in your mind. Just focus on breathing when you're doing meditation. Especially if you can't close your eyes and you can't look to your third eye. Like, you can look with your eyes open, but it's just not as effective if your eyes are open. That's something that you can do as well. If you have any inspirational literature, whether it be spiritual, philosophical, maybe even political, maybe there's a story that you just love reading. Have something to read. Have something to entertain your brain with to keep yourself on this track that is very hard, and just keep going. Don't read anything too quote-unquote depressing, obviously. Alright, so in the interest of making this video not too long, let's go ahead and go to what you should do spiritually when you're dealing with drug withdrawal. So, spiritually, a lot of people find crisis when they're going through withdrawal. Why isn't God helping me? Why aren't my gods helping me? Why aren't spirits helping me? Why aren't my ancestors helping me? The thing about it is immediacy. When we're going through something very painful, we want immediate gratification because we feel the pain in the moment, and it is there. It is our prime reality. Since it is our prime reality in the moment, we want it to end in the moment. We don't want to wait. Now, the universe doesn't work on moments, not usually, until it's the right moment. God, ancestors, spirits, they don't work on moments. They work on when it was always meant to happen. And even if you don't believe that, they at least work in when it feels like it's the right time for it to happen. Even if we think it's the right time, perhaps it is not the right time. We can't expect instant gratification with relief. Relief is what we desire very much, but we can't expect instant gratification like it's a drug. Because once you get hooked on a drug, the instant gratification trigger in your head, that drug gives it. We have to figure out how to wait, how to be patient. That's very much a spiritual science. Patience, reflection, waiting, bearing the pain. That is not an easy virtue. It is not an easy virtue, but it is one that we have to cultivate. Another thing that you should do spiritually, just my advice anyway, is figure out what is your relationship to your own soul or your thoughts in your own soul when you are suffering. Sometimes this might sound like a bad idea. Like, do you really want to interpret your soul while you're going through withdrawal? Hear me out. So, a lot of the time, in times of, okayness or highness, things like that, we feel like the mirror of our soul is just like exactly how we want to see it. When we are in pain or going through withdrawal, or we don't want to make any good assumptions about ourselves, like when you're going through withdrawal, then the mirror to the soul two things can possibly happen. Well, there's more than two, but two things I'm going to talk about. So one is you'll either see the soul as just as run down, as beat up as you, and you'll see the soul as a reflection of yourself, or something else might happen. The mirror effect. The true mirror effect. You might be able to see past all the BS that you usually tell yourself, but this can only happen if you also see through the BS of your beast trying to eat away your psyche, or like insult you, yourself insulting yourself. If you can see past that and see past how you want to see your soul, then sometimes you can get a very interesting mirror. And the soul itself, it's a mirror, but it's a mirror that has a personality behind it. So you get both the essence of the soul, but also it allows you to see yourself for who you truly are. Your ego, your personality, something that exists now, but the soul is something that exists eternally. I believe in reincarnation exists behind many different egos, but if you don't believe in reincarnation, then it still applies. Not all spiritual experiences are, well, the biggest ones are not fun. They're not ones where you're in euphoria. There are ones when you are down in the dirt and you are being torn apart by the situation that you probably caused. Probably. The way that you break and put yourself back together will determine how much you will break in the future and how compatible you are with the solution that you found originally to the initial break. Breaking well and putting ourselves back together well is a science, and it's a science that requires much, I would say it requires much practice, but not necessarily. If you can do it right, if you can understand how you broke, and understand how you put yourself back together, and how you, not only how you did it, but the changes that caused who you are after it. If you can get down everything very well, you won't have to break again in the same way. You'll have to break in other ways, but drug withdrawal, you might not have to break in that way. So it's very important for you as an individual to figure out what's going on with you now when you're going through withdrawal, and focusing on the process and changing yourself. And I hate to use vagueness or cliches or anything like that, but I have used some, and I apologize for that. But going through drug withdrawal has to be understood in many ways. It has to be understood in at least physical, mental, and spiritual ways. Even if you understand different vague ideas in every area, it has to be understood in these 3 areas, or at least multiple areas. Otherwise, other parts of yourself are going to be an issue and drag you back to the addiction. It must be a circumvallation of perception on the situation you find yourself in. At any rate, I hope this helped. I hope this was interesting. I hope that I just didn't sound like a bunch of cliches. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feel free to contact me at www.facebook.com/Hunter_Salazar. HUNTER_SALAZAR. You can message me. You can even friend me. As long as you're polite, we can have a discussion. If you're not polite, then I won't talk to you. If you like my work and want to support it, want to become a patron on Patreon and support both my podcast and YouTube channel and the work that I do, go to www.patreon.com/darkrealist. Capital D, capital R. Go there. You can give as little as $1 a month, and you get all my podcasts, all my YouTube videos, and everything else that I do in one place on my Patreon account. At any rate, thank you very much for watching. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that you find a way to put yourself back together, to love yourself, and become the best person that you're meant to be. And all of you, have a wonderful day.